Hello everybody, I have one question to make today. Is writing short stories helping you to write a novel or not? And this is sort of a trending topic because Kate Kavanagh did a video the other day that she was trying to write like J.R. Martin, which does not mean that she's going to finish her novel in 50 years or so. No, she was following his writing progress. And amidst the other stuff in this video, she actually addressed something that she disagreed with because George Martin is suggesting that you should write short stories and issue publications in magazines for 5 years before trying to write a novel. And she was vehemently disagreeing with that. She was saying that a short story does not teach you how to write a novel because they're different. The story detective, Robert Jones, did a video about this and he had a different opinion. And I really liked his video about I think that I have to put my own 2 cents for whoever is interested. If short story writing and novel writing are complementary or completely different. And I would say that writing short stories is to writing a novel, but running a sprint is running to the marathon, because a sprint requires far different skills. It's all about strength and speed, while a marathon is about stamina and reserves. I'll tell you what I mean, how this applies to short stories and novels in a while, but first things first, let's establish where Martin is wrong. And it has everything to do with his career, how he started and where he's now, because George Martin started I think in the 70s, and back in the 70s, if you were writing science fiction, fantasy and horror, there were lots of magazines that you were able to sell your stories to. I mean, the most prestigious one was Playboy, and Stephen King himself started his career writing short stories for magazines before selling Curry. So he was writing short stories for years, then he published 4 novels. His second novel, Fever Dream, is a classic, is one of the vampire masterpieces that I haven't read yet. I know, sorry. And his 4th novel was a complete little flop. And when I say flop, it killed his career. Flop. So what George Martin did after his 4th novel, which I cannot recall the title right now, I'm sorry about that, I'll have to look it up. He did 2 things. He started an anthology called Wildcards, which was superhero fiction, and that's a very renowned science fiction anthology. And he also went writing TV shows, and I kind of love when youngsters today are speaking about Game of Thrones, because back when I was 6 years old, I was watching George R. Martin penned show called Beauty and the Beast with Ron Perlman and Hamilton, because it was one of the shows that he was established as a screenwriter. In 1996, because A, he was known as a successful editor, and B, The Wheel of Time was a huge hit, so everybody was looking for a new sci-fi doorstopper series. He published Game of Thrones, and after a couple of books, it became a phenomenon, and we all know Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. Yes, his career, when he started, that was the only way to get published. You start with short stories, and eventually you may get a novel deal, and maybe you'll succeed and get more deals after that. And thing is, nowadays, short stories are a very bad market. Short stories collection do not sell, with the possible exception of horror. And what people are asking for is novels and series of novels. And since Amazon and Kindle and self-publishing is a thing, you don't have to chase for agents and write your stories, so you can establish your authority and convince an agent to maybe read your pitch or your draft. And maybe you've seen these videos about how hard it is to get traditional publishing, so you know where this goes. And nowadays, if you cannot publish your book through a publishing house, you can always publish it on KDP. Ton of novels out there. You can write your novel, publish it, and write the next one, and the next one, the next one. And you can even make money out of it. So his proposal, his example, Martin's example, is outdated. And I would argue that, yes, that's true. Pursuing publishing through short stories is an outdated move and much harder than writing a novel from scratch. But let's get back to my marathon analogy, because I have friends who run the marathon, and I mean the OG marathon. And in order to do the marathon, they do not do 55-kilometer runs every week, but they do sprints every day, and they do some longer runs like 5 kilometers with some story. But I always speak metric, so I don't know what is. It's probably 3 miles or something, 3.5 miles. Something like that. So yes, they run these distances so that they will be able to run the marathon once a year, because the guy who ran the marathon first died after finishing the run. So when they run a lot of sprints, they do these longer runs, they build strength, they build stamina, and that's what's required for the big marathon. They learn how to run and they build the muscle to run. Likewise, writing short stories can help you learn how to write and give you confidence and train your muscles for this long and arduous novel you're going to write. There's no way in hell you learn how to pace a novel by writing short stories. Kate Kavanagh is right about that. But it's all about writing muscle and maybe trying things. Let me tell you about my story, because I'm writing in a very small market for a very small audience. I mean, my first language is spoken by 12 million people or something worldwide, and they don't read much of sci-fi and fantasy and horror. So I started writing stuff on the internet for friends and unknown geeks with similar tastes. I mean, I was in a forum. Remember forums? Yes, back in the zeros, almost 2 decades ago, and I was on a role-playing game forum, and I was started writing an episodic novel of 50,000 words, because it was a D&D character background and stuff, and some people liked it. They asked for more, and I started writing more and more, and every chapter was sort of a short story linked together in a bigger narrative. And I also started getting ideas, because when you start writing something, more some things come to your head and you have to write them. And I started writing shorter stories. Some of them had interesting characters, had premises. I started working on world building, because at the beginning I had some ideas for world building, and short stories was a way to give a part of this world, because I started as a role player. And I have 0 publishing options, because there was just the internet. So it was either short stories or longer stories chapter by chapter on the internet. After a while, some people started doing anthologies of science fiction and fantasy. I mean, I could go for a novel. I could sell one of my kidneys and try to self-publish a novel back then, but I wouldn't get the money back, so why did that? It was not viable. Did a couple of short stories, and I've published them in various anthologies and magazines and stuff. Some of the shorts I've written, after a while I started getting that say, hey, I can add something here or there, and after a while the short stories can become novelettes, and those novelettes can become novellas. Or, a short story may be the first chapter of a novel, or, part of a novel, maybe the middle or the end. Maybe you can write a series of short stories that make the whole narrative. Having a fantasy story about an adventuring party having various adventures, and that's a whole novel. All it's made of shorts. So if you know how to write good shorts, you have some good chapters in this book and an interesting novel. I mean, okay, an example. Last year I had to write a 1,000-word story for an anthology. It was a fun project, and this 1,000-word story ended up as a cornerstone for the cosmology of a lot of urban fantasy projects I'm considering. And I mean, I have about 6 ideas for series of novels within a certain universe out of those 1,000 words. So, mind blown, I guess. A short story has a different structure to a novel. Nobody denies that. But if you learn how to write through stories, you can learn how to write good prose. You learn how to write a good beginning, have a hook, how to reach an impactful ending, how to create a character that pops, grabs the reader's attention very fast, there's no way in hell you'll learn how to do subplots, how to do arcs. There is little room for that. But starting small allows for you to complete stuff faster, and then you push them out, you put them in your blog for people to read, you set them for anthologies, you set them to beta readers, to friends, and you get feedback faster and maybe better. And that's a great way to test your premises, your characters, to test writing styles, to capture your voice. It's a proving ground. Short stories are a proving ground for your writings and for your ideas. There is one way George R. R. Martin's advice can hinder your novel writing, and this says that if you spend too much time writing short stories, or pursuing anthologies, or writing whatever pops because you want to try something, you postpone writing your novel. So you may get some publications on magazines and anthologies, but your novel remains half done. You lose your focus, you lose your momentum by pursuing short stories. But yes, you can write both, and most authors write both. I mean, short story can be an excellent opportunity for a reader magnet. Even if you use a published novel, a short story is a great reader magnet. And if you don't know what reader magnets are, look it up. Prepare to have your mind blown. It's a great way you can actually go and write an anthology that's a spin-off to your novel and get more readers out of it. You can write a new character and try to get this character through a separate short story, or just practice. You want to do present tense and you're not sure how this comes out, write a short story in present tense. You want to try second person point of view, it's a bit too much for a novel, right? So you can do a short story and get it out of your system. You can do anything really in a short story, and it's not much of a commitment. It's just a great practice, or a great way to get something out there. That's my experience. That's my point of view. Your own experience may be different, it may vary, and I would love to hear your comments about this topic. Do you think that writing short stories is beneficial to your novel writing, or do you think it's a hindrance, or is it totally irrelevant? Love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below, you press the like button, and subscribe for more writing videos. Thank you for watching.